स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। So in the last class we were studying the 24th and the 25th verse of the 6th chapter of Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. And what those verses speak of? They speak of the supreme discipline regarding yoga. That in these two verses, the entire process of yoga, that what yoga actually means, that its physical aspects like asanas, pranayama, they are not the core of yoga. They are of course the preparations, but the core of yoga is the control of the mind, to go to a state of placidness, to go to a state of tranquility, so that once we can stop the noise of the mind, for the first time we will realize what we are. We always take it for granted that I am, but what that amness is, what the real identity is, we never find out because of the noise of the mind, which is never allowing us to realize my real identity. So the yoga here asserts the fact that if you can calm down the mind and go to a state where as if the mind has fallen off, it doesn't exist, that the general idea is I am because I think. That's what Descartes has told, that I think therefore I am. But Vedanta says you really understand what you are when you stop thinking, you go beyond the thought. And that's the core practice of the yoga, that as we have found it in the Yoga Sutras. In the very second sutra, the yoga has been defined as what? Yogas chitta vritti nirodha. And this process we were studying in the last class was described in the two verses. What's the main practice? Just in a very short way, we just go on for the recapitulation. Sankalpan Sankalpa Prabhavan Kaman Styaktva Sarvan Asheshata Manasa Eva Indriya Gramam Viniyamya Samantataha. Sankalpa Prabhavan Kaman. Kama, all the desires, they are influenced, they are motivated. The cause behind all the desire is Sankalpa. Sankalpa Prabhavan Kaman. From the Sankalpa, the Kama, the desires arise. That we have to renounce in totality. Not that just some desires I keep, some I renounce. No, Sarvan Asheshata. Totally renouncing all the desires. How is it possible? Manasa eva indriya gramam viniyamya samantataha. With the mind, I have to control the senses, the outgoing senses. The first thing is that, as in the last class we indicated, that what's the meaning of sankalpa, which comes first. So it's a technical term. As we have seen in the last class, it is defined as what is sankalpa. Sankalpa is nothing but shobhana adhyasa. Adhyasa in Vedanta means superimposition. I take a thing what it is not. So the word Maya has something to do with this meaning, with so adhyasa. Maya. From Sanskrit, all the Indian languages have evolved. You will find even in Hindi, in Bengali, we use the word yatha yatha. It means as it is. So ya represents yatha yatha, and ma is a negation of that. That what I am seeing and thinking, that yes, these are just as I see. So here Vedanta is saying no. Constantly we are being deluded by our mind and the senses, and always take the thing what it is not. So adhyasa means superimposition. I impose one thing upon something. And shobhana, what shobhana means? Shobhana means beautiful. I ascribe the beauty to this world in so many forms. The world is beautiful, it is cynic. As Swami Vivekananda is very interesting, that when he was in the West, he was giving lecture on Vedanta, and he was speaking of the Advaita Vedanta, and then someone stood up suddenly from the audience and told, you are speaking of the conscious principle, that's the only underlying principle behind the existence. But I know very well that in practice you are all idol worshippers. You worship idol. You are speaking of conscious principle, but you are worshipper of idol. And Swamiji, being interrupted in the lecture, he started smiling. He was just pacing up and down the stage, and then he came that near that person, and then he told a very interesting thing. But young person, he was a young boy, young person. He said, but young man, you also are the idol worshippers. And he told, how come? We are not idol worshippers. And then Swamiji very nicely told, why? You young person, don't you kneel down in front of a young girl and say, you are the angel? Isn't it an idol worship? Shobhanadhyasa. That's the Shobhanadhyasa. That a person of flesh and bones, with all sorts of deficiencies, just you remove the skin, it is something most disgusting. But we see the beauty there. Isn't it something adhyasa? So what Swamiji told is something wonderful. That all are idol worshippers. Because you are taking something as something else. That in idol what we do? That yes, we never think it as an image made of clay or made of stone. I always think it's the divine. In Vishishtadvaita, there is a concept of Archavataram. Beautiful concept. Archavataram. That the image, the God is manifesting as the universe. The entire universe is nothing but the manifestation of the divine. But the divine manifests in some places more than in others. The divine is more palpably manifested in some places. So in these images, the devotee sees the divine there, manifested more palpably. He is no more, that image is not just Mrinmayi, as Sri Ramakrishna said, is not made of clay. It is Chinmayi. I see the Lord. So this type of infatuation is still good, but it helps you to transcend above the flesh. So if you have to have adhyasa, have this type of adhyasa. See the Lord in each and every being. But see that the idol worship in which you get involved, because you have never cultured yourself to use the faculty of awe. We as a human being have a faculty of awe. That I always want to relate to something which is much greater than me. As a human being, we can never think ourselves limited. They say very nicely, Sah, what is the definition of a human being? Sah anantaya kalpate. I think always of the infinite. You will see a small child. Nowadays, in the name of rationality, we say, oh, that our Puranas, our Ramayana, Mahabharata, these are the stories. The child, it's very difficult to make them believe. All those ideas are there which in no way appeals to our rationality. And sometimes we feel discouraged. How to explain the child? He will question, I have no answer. Better forget about them. So we don't encourage. But I forget one thing. The child comes back from the school, throws his school bag. The first thing he does is opens the screen. The moment he gets chance. And then what he's looking for, what he's viewing. All sorts of cartoon movies, nothing else. And all those cartoons speaks of nothing but something unnatural. Nowadays there are so many cartoons that in our days we have heard of this Spider-Man, Superman. What they are doing? They are doing all unnatural things. Climbing up the wall of the building, jumping over this, this multi-story building, and the child is fully engrossed. Not only that, after viewing that, he himself starts thinking himself the Superman. He will go to the shop to buy a apron or some dress which is just like the Superman. You find that in the birthday you give them. What has happened? You were thinking that the child nowadays, unless something appeals to their rationality, they won't believe. But what he is actually intaking, all those hodgepodge ideas, all those ideas which has nothing to do with reality. Why? Because the self within us who is hidden, that is infinite, that can never think itself limited. It is constantly echoing through our body and the mind and the senses. You are infinite. And our body mind never allows us to realize that infinitude. But something is echoing. And that makes us struggle constantly to relate to something which is greater than us. And that creates the awe faculty. That why we take leave and go for some holiday, where after all we spend our money and we go. Either to near some mountain or the ocean, sit near the ocean and feel tremendously relaxed. Again, that awe faculty is working, nothing. That I just relate to that infinite expanse of the ocean and feel relaxed. I see the infinite tires of the mountain, feel relaxed. That awe faculty is working. I relate to something which is much greater than me. See, this is the thing which I can never stifle. I can never stifle. It is there. It needs to be fed. What the religion has done, what the spirituality has done, has you use that faculty which can never be stifled in a positive way, so that that faculty, that awe faculty, get converted into some inspiration for some ideal. All those Puranic characters with all the superhuman qualities is actually speaking of inspiration for some higher ideal which transcends the limitation of the human mind and senses. But if you don't feed it, that faculty is there. It has to be fed. It has to be nourished. If you don't nourish it, it is bound to find expression in a distorted way. What's the distorted way? Either in the form of destruction or in the form of infatuation for sensual things. These are the two things. You will find a doctor and engineer fully educated. You just go to this at present in the world, this war, this Israel, Palestine, or the war is going on. After all, you will find it's all educated persons. For what they are fighting, ultimately you will find all faculty is working. How? If I stand for my religion, even if I die, I go to heaven. That gives me that idea of infinitude. So as it was not fed with the proper ideology, it is leading to destruction, nothing else. Either it leads to destruction or it leads to infatuation, just as Swamiji told. When in the adolescent period you are growing, you see someone and feel, oh, that's the angel. So it's after all, it's our sensuality which is finding expression through that awe, as it was never fed in something higher. So this is the something which we have to understand. The Shobhana Adhyasa speaks of that. That unless you feed your awe faculty, nourish your awe faculty, so that it can relate to the spiritual dimension of existence, it is going to take us down, spirally downwards, kill us, destroy us. So what he is saying, that manasa eva indriya gramam viniyamya samantata. With the mind we have to control the senses, but it is not easy. We have to keep in mind that how the desires have arose because of sankalpa. Sankalpa is shobhana adhyasa, that I am seeing something beautiful which is not. That's the thing which I have to feed my intellect with, this idea. And then that intellect has to work on the mind. then only the mind can control the senses. If I just simply say mind, control the senses, you will become mad, nothing else at last. That's what in the modern psychology also says. Don't force the natural inclinations of your mind and senses. Yes, it is true, unless and until that next verse we are taking into consideration. What's the next verse? Shanai Shanai, slowly. Don't be too drastic. Shanai Shanai uparamet buddhya dhriti grihitaya. The buddhi, the intellect, that has to be constantly cultured so that it can hold on to an idea fixedly, constantly. That is what is known as dhriti. Dhriti means dharana shakti. That we hear so many things, we read scriptures, we go for satsang. The moment we are out, we just keep them where we have heard them. We deal with the world just in a worldly manner, as if there is a watertight compartment between our spiritual life and the secular life. These ideas doesn't hold good here. Dhriti speaks the dharana. What I hear here, that nothing is secular, everything is spiritual. If I know how to implement these ideas in my day-to-day life. And that's this idea of dhriti. When your buddhi has developed the capacity to hold on to that idea, that each and every moment of my life, my buddhi is there to guide my mind. By default, the mind is bound to be driven by the senses. If I force the mind without any proper inspiration, it is, instead of doing something good, it will harm me. So I have to gradually, slowly cajole the mind with the dhriti. What was dhriti? Everything is shobhanadhyasa. My mind and the senses being deluded for ages together, for lives together, that has become habitual. It has forgotten to see the thing as it is. With the dhriti, with the buddhi, you have to constantly instruct the mind. And then you will find the mind is gradually becoming your servant. The mind as the master is the most tyrannical master. But if you can make it your servant, it is the most obedient servant. So gradually it is becoming your servant. It is listening to your instructions. And as we told, that in this world, I cannot move around with my eyes closed. So what actually the faculty of withdrawing the senses by the mind speaks of? It's obvious. When I'm moving out, I have to move out with my eyes open. So many things will come to my vision, which may not be something good for my spiritual journey. It may be a distraction. Know it for certain that I cannot avoid. But I see something, I find it's attracting me, and again, second time I look, know it for certain. That's the thing we are saying. There the question of control of the mind comes. Have I the capacity that once I think that it is not good for me, just like the tortoise, as in the second chapter it was indicated, kurmongani sarvasha. Just the way the tortoise, seeing the danger, withdraws its limbs within its shell. Do I have developed the capacity that it is not something good for me, instead of being drawn out, I withdraw. I withdraw myself, and this withdrawing becomes a nervous association. Swami Vivekananda says this gathering of information is not education. The real education is nervous association of ideas. Very wonderful thing is saying that you hold on to an idea and your reflex changes. When you find this idea is the ideal for me, I regulate my life in such a way that my reflex changes. That instead of the limbs going out, like tortoise, it is being withdrawn. The reflex has changed. In the life of Ramakrishna, we find that when, as a sadhaka, as a spiritual aspirant, when the idea came to his mind that after all, wealth and everything are worthless in the spiritual sense. It is as worthless as a clod of earth. So, as he was the priest of the Dakshineshwar temple, even now it is there. So Ramakrishna had to sign. Ramakrishna had to sign in that, that in the salary book. That signature is still there. If you go to Dakshineshwar, there it is still there. And he had to take the salary. Because as he is the priest, he has to. But he was not willing. He felt that all this, after all, is a hindrance in the spiritual journey. So he used to take the salary and then to imprint the idea that only God is the ideal for me, everything else is trash. So he used to take a clod of earth, mix the currency notes which he got with the earth by saying that taka mati, mati taka. This wealth is as useless as this clod of earth. Saying this, he will mix them and throw it in the Ganges. And this became his reflex. So such a strong reflex that after all, these currency coins are made of metal. That reflex changed. That's for Sri Ramakrishna what happened. If even unknowingly he is to touch any metal, immediately he will feel as if a scorpion has bitten him. His hands will repel, so strong it was. He could never take food in metal plate. It was always in the banana leaf. And the tumbler used to be that clay, that that the nowadays pots are there, clay pots. That used to be the tumblers, and he could never touch metal. When Narendranath, as a young boy, the college student, came to Ramakrishna and he saw all this, he thought he must be feigning. It is not possible. It's not possible. He must be feigning. He's just making a show of it. So one day Ramakrishna was not in his room. And that's when Swami Vivekananda, the future Vivekananda, that time he was Naren, he got a scope, an opportunity to test Ramakrishna. What he did, that he kept a coin below the mattress. So when we say mattress, of course, we have an idea of a thick mattress. It's not a thick mattress. In India, the tropical weather, it's a very thin mattress. So below that. So if you sit over it, most probably that metal will be felt, but you cannot see it. So what happened when Sri Ramakrishna returned to his room, he couldn't see that anything is beneath the mattress. So he came and as usual sat on his bed, and Swami Vivekananda was hiding himself behind the windows just to see what's the reaction. Because Ramakrishna always says that even unknowingly if I touch metal, I get terrible pain. It's just like a bite of a scorpion. And the moment Sri Ramakrishna sat, he jumped up and called his nephew Ramlal. Ramlal, please come. Please see if anything is there beneath the mattress. And Ramlal found that coin. And then Naren came out. Ramakrishna and understood that it is Naren who was testing him. He was very happy. Instead of getting angry, he was happy. He told that you should judge such called a sadhu in the day, in the night. Because sarvana sheshata, that you cannot be a part-time sadhu. That okay, for some time I am a sadhu and for the rest time I am the householder. No. Sarvana sheshata. When the renunciation comes, I have renounced everything in totality. So if you have to see me, see day in, day out. And then be confirmed about the fact that what I say is not just what I am feigning. It's a fact. And seeing that, Naren was really shocked. He could never believe that it really can happen. That an idea can become just a nervous, it can get associated with your nerves. And then he started understanding the words of Ramakrishna, that what he says, he really means it. He says the so-called educated of Calcutta, in that place as he was in Calcutta, means of any educated society. By Calcutta he means any educated, are just like vultures. That's the word he's using. They fly, soar high up in the sky, but their entire attention is on the carcasses, in the ground, on some charnel pit where all the rotten flesh are actually thrown. There's some carcasses are there, rotten flesh is there. It's soaring sky high up in the sky, but all its intention is there. We speak a lot, but at last we will find our intentions have not changed. The ideas have not become a nervous association. Why? Because that we don't have the dhriti. We all think that these are just for being written in the scriptures, and in the satsang we repeat. But in our day-to-day life it cannot be practiced. Chalta nahi hai. So this is the thing which scripture is saying, that with the dhriti, With your dharana shakti, you have to implement those ideas by gradually cajoling the mind. It's not that in one day it is possible. You have to go on hammering the mind again and again, again and again, again and again, knowing it for certain that your mind is bound to change when you are feeding it with the dhriti, with the buddhi, again and again. You are going to get transformed. For that you have to have patience, you have to have perseverance. It's not going to happen in a day. As Swami Vivekananda used to say, spiritual transformation is not like the falling of the rain. When there's a torrential rain, I can see the rain is falling and the ground is getting wet. It's not like that. He said it's just like the falling of the dew drops. It's so imperceptible. When the dewdrops have fallen, I haven't seen. In the morning, I go out, I find the entire grass is wet, the lawn is wet. When it has become wet, I don't know. So that's what Swamiji is saying. The spiritual transformation happens almost unnoticed. For that, you have to have patience, perseverance. That speaks of that shanai, patience, perseverance. Slowly, go on doing the same thing. I fail, again I try. In this life, nothing I have learned in one attempt. When I was, as a child, I was just crawling on my fours, on my four limbs. And then when I started walking, so many times I have fallen. So many times. When you have learned cycling, swimming, anything we learn, but in spiritual life, we think it's like instant coffee. Oh, I have heard it, from tomorrow it's going to be implemented. If not, it's all bogus. How can it be? This also is going to take its own time through repeated failures. But we should have that conviction, sraddha, that what the scriptures have spoken, it's not useless. It's not something just to fool us. It is possible. Climbing the top of the Everest is very difficult, but it is not impossible. Spiritual life is difficult. It is just like walking on the edge of a razor. As in the Kathopanishad, it has been mentioned that Uttishtata Jagrata Prapya Vara Nivodhata, this Kshurasya Dhara Nishita Dhuratyaya. This is just like Kshura. That Kshura means just the razor. It is just like walking on the edge of the razor. It's not easy. But that doesn't mean it is not possible. It is difficult, but it is possible. And we all have to take this difficult path. There is no other option. Because Nanya Pantha Vidyate Anaya. There is no other way for that real perpetual happiness. This difficult path we all have to traverse. And for that patience, perseverance is required. That's Shanai Uparamet. Gradually. Buddhya Dhriti Grihitaya. With that dharana shakti, with the buddhi, you have to go on suggesting the mind so that the mind can now control the senses. And then gradually you get rid of the Shobhanadhyasa by being established in yourself. And once you are getting established in yourself, don't again fall back. Atma Sangsthang Manah Kritva Kinchit Api Chintayet. So that once the mind is established in the self, he should think of nothing else. That scripture says, Anya Vacha Vimunchata. Forget everything else. That Buddha used to give the example of a rhinoceros. When the rhinoceros is chasing something, it will be just running straight. The way if it is chasing you, they say that you can never in speed ever overtake the rhinoceros. It's quite fast. With that heavy body, it's quite fast. You cannot overrun it. So what's the way to save yourself? Just deviate. Go out of the way. Just move left or right. Because of the tremendous momentum, the rhinoceros cannot take a deviation. It will just run straight. So that's what Buddha used to say. In spiritual life, we have to be like a rhinoceros. Once I have understood what's the goal, go straight to it without any deviation. And that's what is spoken of as Atma Sangstham. That once you know that how this world is appearing as something beautiful, but it is not. All the beauty I see, it is actually of the self, which is being imposed on the world. Let me go to the source, the spiritual source. And for that, once I understand that, there shouldn't be any deviation. With full endeavor, let me just try to just hit the goal. Just in the Upanishads, even in the Mundaka Upanishads, they say that just like shooting an arrow. When you're shooting an arrow, the arrow always strikes a straight line. It goes and hits the mark, and it becomes one with the mark. So become one with the ideal. Have that type of determination. So that's the idea. Atma sangsthang manokritva nakinchit api chintayet. So after saying this in the 26th verse, what it's saying, it's just a reiteration of the same idea, that don't deviate. Once your mind gets established, keep it there. Don't get deviated. What he's saying, yato nischarati manas chanchalam asthiram tatas tato niyamyaitat atmanyeva vasham nayet. That when you try to be just moving straight in your spiritual journey, you will find that the mind, because of its past impressions, do have a tendency to again fall back in its distractive mode of existence, going back to the distractions. Be alert. Whenever you find, again bring back with the help of the dhriti. Cajole it, bring it back. Hold the reins. That in Kathopanishad they say that buddhi is the reins. Mind is that wild horse. And the roads are the sense objects. The horse, if you just cannot hold the reins tightly, strongly, the horse will destroy you, take you astray. So with the buddhi, you have to hold the horses very strongly. So that's the idea. Whenever yato nischarati manas chanchalam asthiram. So in Bhagavad Gita, the beauty is the prefixes. Prefixes are the beauty. See, we sometimes think just to rhyme it, they have used the prefixes. No. So if they would have mentioned charati, wherever the mind goes, bring it back. For that, the word charati would have been sufficient. Why they have added that ni, that prefix, nischarati? In Sanskrit, charati means to move. Why nischarati? It's very interesting. See, when I am interacting with the world, my mind through the senses moves out. That I understand. But now I have taken a resolve. I will have to meditate. I am sitting in my room. I am not interacting with the world. But now you will find, even if the sense objects are not there, the mind will be fantasizing, visualizing. So in the absence of the sense objects, when you keep your mind in the default mode, you're relaxed, you find it won't allow you to relax. It still travels. Without the sense objects, it is visualizing and it's traveling. So that's why that ni has been used to indicate that even when the senses as such physically has been restrained, with the mind you have a tendency again and again to go back to that old way of distracted living. So from there you have to bring back. So why does the mind behave like this? So as we have mentioned, even in the modern psychology, this is a very interesting thing. That mind is not one mind. What the mind is actually having innumerable mental modules. Each module has a fixed stimuli response conditioning. When I had the donut, I developed an affection for it, attachment for it. If I have seen something that in the last class jokingly we told that for the first time, if you just give a child a bitter gourd or something like that, that repulsion, or you give some broccoli, you'll find that there's so many videos. What a tremendous this reaction he has. I don't like it. So raga, dvesh. So all these speaks of mental modules. For a particular stimuli, you have a particular response. We think that we decide. That I see a thing, my mind decides to have it or not have it. But even the modern psychology, they say that the idea that I am taking the decision. In the Vedanta also the same idea is there, that I am the karta. This is a delusion. It's not fact. What actually happens? That of the innumerable mental modules, only one module gets activated at a time. And it has a fixed stimuli response conditioning. As per the conditioning, for a particular stimuli, it will respond, making you believe that you have taken the decision. It's very interesting. We never take this decision. That's how You will find you are a different person when you are at office. You are a different person when you are with your family and with your children. You are a different person when you are with your friends. The environment decides which module gets activated, not me. Though I have a feeling, I actually am the deciding no. That there are innumerable modules, of which one module gets activated as per the environment in which I am. A very interesting thing. When I am not interacting with the world, I am sitting quietly. Most probably I have taken the resolution I will meditate. And then I find how the mind can play a trick. Not only one idea. Suddenly one idea is in the mind. Suddenly I find it is replaced by another idea. And then again another idea. I'm totally lost. So many ideas starts coming. And I am really afraid of my own mind. That previously I had the idea that an enemy is outside. Now I find the enemy is within. So many ideas, why it happens? They say when you're in the default mode, you're relaxing, you're as such not interacting with the environment. What happens here? A very interesting thing. It is just like a grandma in the holidays. All the grandkids have came to spend time because of school holidays. They came to spend time with the grandparents. Now grandma most probably is relaxing, sitting and just doing some wool knitting. And all the grandchildren, they all came, they had to spend the holidays. They're all sitting around the grandmother and constantly all are trying to be pampered by the grandma. They all want to draw her attention, isn't it? All are trying their best. And grandma finds it is impossible now to really do anything. She has to throw it. So constantly there. So everyone wants to be pampered. What has happened? I have made those modules strong. Throughout my life, in such a particular environment, when I was there, that module got activated. And once it gets activated, it has got strong. So all these modules have developed this strength because sometime or other I have pampered them. Now when I am sitting here to relax, they all want to be pampered. And that's why just now one just jumps up, the other jumps up. So that is the idea of nishcharati. So you are not interacting, but you'll find that constantly they are disturbing you. So what's the way out? So again this shanai. What's the way out? That I was feeding in the morning, so many birds used to come, I used to feed them the grains. Now I have decided I am not going to feed them anymore. Will they stop coming? Again the next day you will find the birds are there. But now you have to have patience. I have decided I am not going to feed them anymore. Let them come. After some time they go, but their expectation is still there. For so many days you have fed them. The second day again they come. The third day again they come. Now you think, oh, again they are coming, let me give them again little grain. So what will happen? Again the expectation grows. So again they will get stronger, the fourth day they will come. So once I have decided I am not going to give them grain, you have to sit quietly, let them come. Third day, fourth day, fifth day. A time will come, they will stop falling off. They won't come. They have got that feedback that we are not going to be fed anymore. And that's the idea. Yato nischarati. Whenever. Manas chanchalavasthiram. Tatastata niyamyaitat. No more. I have understood you were befooling me with that shobhana adhyasa. I was seeing the beauty in the things which it is not. I am seeing the fulfillment in the things which it can never give me. It's just an advertisement with total hollow inside. Nothing there. No more. No more. So that's how you have to allow that sufficient time for all the modules to get that feedback that we are not going to be fed anymore. And then they start falling off. So that's the wonderful idea. So Bhagavad Gita, I will find it's just as good as a psychological science. Actually, nowadays, we should study our scriptures. What has happened? We have forgotten our scriptures. You'll find, I can just ascertain you in fact, it's all the academicians throughout the world do study our scriptures, and just they're changing the language, nothing else. See these new words which we have not heard, mental modules and world. The chitta word is there. In Upanishad, if you go to the our Yoga Shastra, in the fourth chapter of Patanjali Yoga Sutra, there is a nice word. That word is called, the exact word I'm forgetting, this about this chitta, that what they that exact word I'm forgetting. That is exact. Its translation is mental module. This chitta, a particular term is there, that we have many innumerable such mental modules. That exact. So that's why I'm saying that we have forgotten our scriptures, but now throughout the world, the academicians do know that we have to recognize that old wisdom, and they are again using this modern language to speak out. Swami Vivekananda used to say a very interesting thing. In one of the letters he is writing, everyone has a language and you have to speak to him in his language. Nowadays we think the young generation is aversive to religion. No. Because now when they are going to the university, they have learnt a language and we cannot speak to them in their language. We have to learn that it is nothing but a translations of the scriptures. It is just a change of language, nothing else. If you can relate that what you are studying is actually coming from there, they're bound to be convinced, because somehow to be good is the inner desire for all. No one wants to be just a wayward, leading a wayward life. Everyone wants to be integrated. Everyone has that ideal. So know that idea. And then you'll find it's wonderful. It's just relating the same thing. The same thing in just a new language, a new package it is coming, nothing else. What a wonderful thing to say. So now, that what's the result? That if you can really lead this life, what's the result? That if you get established in yoga, mainly two things. One is Brahmisthiti and another is Samadarshana. That you become non-discriminative. That in your love, in your relation to the world, you don't discriminate. Just in the life of Ramakrishna, a very interesting thing, that one day it so happened his nephew was no more staying in Dakshineshwar because of some wrongdoing. The management of the Dakshineshwar temple asked him to leave. So he was no more, the Hriday, he was no more staying in Dakshineshwar. One day Ramakrishna was with his devotees sitting in his room. Someone came and told that Hriday has come. Now as Hriday was not allowed to enter into the Dakshineshwar premises, the management has removed him and told him he shouldn't enter. So he was waiting outside the gate of Dakshineshwar. And the one who is the author of the gospel, the Master Mahashaya, M. So M, he accompanied Ramakrishna to meet Hriday, this nephew, outside the gate. He went there, had a chit chat, couldn't stay for long. Hriday was crying for it that when he was with Ramakrishna, sometimes he really behaved very bad. He was repenting for that. And he told that now I understand that how great you are and all those things he told. And he told that now I am really in a very, very constrained situation, financially constrained situation. I am really going through some hard times. So all this he told, and Ramakrishna naturally after all his nephew, hearing that he is not doing well, so some tears naturally just dropped from his eyes. And now Ramakrishna told, I cannot spend much time with you, the devotees are waiting. Okay, later we will think of again meeting. And then Ramakrishna was returning and he asked Sri M. As Sri M saw that Ramakrishna's eyes has fallen, he's asking, is it Maya or Daya? So lives are wonderful. Constantly, see, they are constantly keeping them in that, what you say, that as the one who is to be judged. What we do in our life, we are constantly judging others. With these personalities, others, they use the scriptures, the ideals of the scriptures to judge themselves, not the world. I still remember when we were studying the Daiva Sampatti Asura Vibhaga Yoga in Sydney. Our Sridharanji was taking the class. At the very beginning he told, so now what are the divine qualities, what are the asuric qualities that will be taught in this chapter. But in the very beginning he warned, he told, these are not to judge others, it is just to judge you. And that's what Sri Ramakrishna is doing. Is it Maya or Daya? And then he defined what is Maya and Daya. That Maya is this love for your own biological relations, and Daya is love for all. That's when you have that Samadarshana. You see this divine has become this world, and each and everything you see the divine. then your love is no more just for you and your biological relation. It transcends that. You start loving everything without any discrimination. So these are the two basic qualities which develops once you get established in yoga. The Brahmisthiti, when I'm not interacting with the world, I'm at peace with myself. I'm swastha. I'm established in my own self. The word swasth means not lack of disease. It means one who resides in himself. Swa me sthit. One is residing in himself. Swastha. So when he is not interacting with the world, he is just residing in his real nature, Brahmisthiti. And when he is interacting with the world, he comes down from samadhi. Now his vision has totally transformed. He doesn't see the world of this world of name and form the way we see. He sees the divine has been projected as this universe. And the world is nothing but the expression of the divine. And then he relates to the world through worship. As if each and every act becomes a worship. Not like the welfare activities we do. We think I am helping. He is a person who needs help, I am helping. No. It is the God who has came in front of me in the form of the poor person, in the form of the uneducated person. It is God alone. In that disguise he came. So what I do is worship. Nara Narayan Seva. Because it is God alone. So that's why Swamiji is saying the real Karma Yoga is what? The one whom you are helping, he is standing on a high pedestal. The one who is the provider, he is kneeling down. Generally we see that the one who is receiving the help, he kneels down. The donor is standing and on a high pedestal and giving. So no. Know it for certain, it is the God who has came in that form. It is you who should kneel down, that he has given you the opportunity to serve him. The Daridra, the Narayana came as Daridra. The God has came as the poor person and gave you the opportunity to serve him, and by that way have your own Chitta Shuddhi, to purify yourself. It is you who has got the opportunity. Bow down to him. Kneel down. So that is worship. So that's the idea which will be spoken of from 27th to the 32nd verse. So let's start the 27th. What it is saying? First it will speak of the Brahmisthiti. And then that Samadarshana will come. Prashanta manasang yenam yoginam sukhamuttamam upaiti shanta rajasam brahma bhutam akalmasham. So once by the practices which has been spoken of in these previous verses, that whenever the mind is getting distracted, bring it back. So by that what has happened? You have completely subdued the restlessness of the mind. That Shanta Rajasam, that's the word that indicates that you have by that practice now been capable of subduing the mind, the restlessness of the mind totally have subdued. Then what will happen? You will become Prashanta Manasam. The mind has attained tranquility. Prashanta Manasam. So when the tranquility of mind is attained, then it will take you to that realization, highest realization. The moment that, as we were saying, the moment we go beyond the mind, then only we know who we are. In Vedanta they say the mind is acting like a prism. The self in association, just the way white light falls on the prism to break to the spectrum of the 7 colors. Similarly, the conscious principle, when coming in association with the mind, appears as this world of name and form. Even in modern science, they know that what I am seeing is a total hallucination. That example which we give again and again, that anything, suppose I am seeing a red color, it may be a flower. I think that outside is a red flower I am seeing. Even science will say there is no red flower outside. No red flower. That redness is not outside. It is just a wavelength of light which falls on your eyes, being reflected on that flower. A particular wavelength is reflected. All others are absorbed. A particular wavelength is reflected. It's just a wavelength of light. The moment it touches your eyes, the retina, no more light. The light doesn't go to your brain. It is just the optic nerve impulse. It's a nerve current of a particular frequency which is going to your brain, to the color, so-called the color perceiving center. It is not perceiving. It is just perceiving a particular frequency of nerve impulse which is interpreted as red. The red color is actually generated in the mind. The idea of redness was there dormant in the mind. The moment this frequency of nerve impulse goes and stimulates it, the redness is actually projected from your mind. It goes and envelops the flower to give you the sensation that it is red. So from this one example, you will find whatever we are seeing is nothing but the projection of the mind. And Vedanta have said it thousands of years back, that this is this projection. So this, what is this was saying, that when you have stopped this projection, that first Shanta Rajasam, your restlessness of the mind by your constant practice has been stopped, and your mind has become prashanta, totally tranquil, no waves. Know it for certain, ultimately it will take you. Why? When there is no waves. Chitta means vritti. Without vritti there is no chitta. Very interesting. These words are very interesting. Chitta, yogas, chitta, vritti, nirodha. Now, by vritti we generate, everywhere we will find the translation, the thought waves. But in Sanskrit, vritti means profession. It doesn't mean waves. Then why the word vritti has been used for the thought waves? Very interesting. That's why we say that this, if you can know the meaning of the words, you know the entire philosophy. Vritti means profession. Now a doctor sustains himself by his profession. An engineer sustains himself by his profession. A teacher, a professor, any profession you take, they sustain themselves. They are serving, of course, the world, but they are sustaining themselves with their profession. So the idea of vritti is what? That thing by which you sustain yourself. Now the chitta, the mind, cannot sustain itself unless these thought waves are there. So that's why they are called vritti. Very interesting, thought waves. Because by that, if you can stop the vritti, the mind doesn't exist. The mind exists only because of the vritti. So that's why yoga says chitta vritti nirodha. Prashanta Manasa speaks of that. The vrittis have been stopped. So what happens? The mind is no more there. The prism has gone. So what will happen? The spectrum will disappear. But has it totally disappeared? No. It has merged with the white light. That white light is the self. The self coming in association with the mind, which is like the prism, which is projecting the world. The prism has fallen off. So you get established in the self. And that's the idea which has been spoken of as Brahma Bhutam. What you realize? Swami Vivekananda gives this idea because they are the realized soul. When you get identified with yourself, what's the idea? You transcend, your amness is still there, but you transcend the idea of space, time, causation. That you are beyond this idea of space, time, causation. That's why the Brahma came from Bri Dhatu, means Brihat. That you feel that you are no more just this limited person. You are the only thing that exists. That is a non-local consciousness. So the moment that you shift to that awareness, all your petty desires are bound to fall off. Because all the desires are hooked to your limited I. I want this, I want that. Everything is related to that I. I don't want this. Everything is related to that I. That I has been washed away. It has merged in that non-dual consciousness. So I has been totally washed away. Now when I is not there, then how can there be any kalmasha? There cannot be sin. Because all our the sins are from the petty desires, and the desires are again hooked with I. That I has been washed away by our being established in that Paramatman. So now what happens? That your mind becomes totally pure. That's the idea of, has been spoken of as this kalmasha, this bhutam akalmasham. Very, very nice. In English we say that the core of sin is I. You spell S-I-N. Alphabetically, I is between S and N, isn't it? And spiritually also the same thing. The core of sin is I. The moment you can remove the I, there cannot be any kalmasha. You go beyond all sin. You're pure. So it is a question of transformation of your awareness. We think that to become pure I have to use my willpower. Never. The moment your awareness shifts to something larger, you automatically become pure. Sri Ramakrishna gives a very, very nice example. It may be a bit straightforward, very straight. It may appear to be a bit crude, but you will find that what a wonderful thing he's saying. What he's saying, can a couple think of conjugal pleasure on the day when they have lost their child? Awareness has changed totally. That sorrow they are feeling, impossible. So you can know it for certain that when we think that all our so-called subjugation of desires is actually depends on willpower, no. It depends on the total shifting of your awareness. The moment you get, your awareness gets identified with that Brahma, with that non-dual consciousness, which alone is the existence behind this entire universe, all the petty desires are bound to fall off. That's why they say you become akalmasha. And then only you know what the true joy is. Sukham uttamam upaiti. So this each and every word actually is just taking you step by step. That in this life, whether I believe in God or not, and even if I believe in God, in what denomination it is, it may be varied. But can anyone deny I don't want happiness in this life? I want suffering? There is not a single fool. Even a fool wants happiness. No one wants suffering in this life. That's the common goal. And that's the goal which Gita is assuring. Sukham, that uttamam, that we in this life do get sukha, small pleasures. But this is the uttama, the highest superlative happiness. The happiness which has no end. You reach that happiness once you, step by step, by getting established in the yoga, first you get this Shanta Rajasa. By the practice, all the restlessness has fallen off. Your mind has become tranquil. That has taken you to the realization of yourself. All the sins have fallen off. And then the bliss which you enjoy is something superlative. That how this bliss which we enjoy is superlative, just an inkling we will give, which actually has been spoken of in the next verse. So the next verse, we will read it later. First, let us go to this idea. Maybe we will take up again in the next class, because the time is almost over. What's the idea? Swamiji is saying very nice thing, that the bliss always comes from within, from the self. This world can never give us bliss. And this example which he gives is a wonderful example. He's saying our mind is something like a lake. And our real nature is, he's just as a comparison, just to help us, he is with the help of an allegory he's explaining. Our self is as if the bottom of the lake. Now when the lake is disturbed, the water is in turmoil. Can you see the bottom of the lake? You'll find it's impossible. It's not visible. In the swimming pool, when all are swimming, the children are jumping, making fun, for having just throwing water in each other, it is impossible to see the bottom of the swimming pool. Now when no one is there, all has left, the swimming pool water is calm and tranquil, clear, transparent water. If something has fallen on the bottom of the swimming pool, you can see where it is. You can see, because it's transparent. So Swamiji is saying our mind is like that. When it is full of waves, I cannot see the bottom. That the bottom is our real self, which is Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa. That Ananda Swarupata is something which is emanating from the self. But this Ananda Swarupakata gets obscured because of the waves of the mind. When I fulfill a desire, we will find that we will say, but we get happiness by fulfillment of the desire. Yes, that's true. But we are constantly deluded. We think that by getting the thing we got happiness. But in this world, not a single thing can give us happiness. The latest model car which I want, the moment I get it, I am ecstatic. I feel the car has given me happiness. No. What has happened? When the desire for the car was there in my mind was extremely agitated. There was a huge wave. I want that car. I want that car. All other desires were engulfed by that one desire. So there were so many distractions. All were engulfed by this one. I want the car. I want the car. And the moment you get it, for the time being, no wave is there. And it is the self. The happiness is coming from within. the self percolates through your mind or senses, wells up, giving you tremendous happiness, and we are fooled. We think the car has given you happiness. If I knew it is the self within which alone is the source of happiness, what I would have tried? Prashanta Manasa. And then I would have got the happiness always. It would have been something which is always with me. And that's the things here the scripture is saying. That once you can make the mind calm and allow the filtration factor of your mind in the form of these desires to be totally eradicated, the happiness at present which is just momentary, the moment I get an happiness, I get my objects, the desirable object, for the time being the mind is calm, the happiness is coming from the self, but again it's gone because a new desire is arising. That's constantly fooling me again and again. If I knew the real source of joy, I could have got it constantly without any interruption, just by keeping my mind calm. It would have constantly welled up from the core of my being, and that is the this atyantik sukha speaking of. That will be again explained in the next verse. Yunjan nevang sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmasha. And he has gone beyond that. Sukhena brahma sangsparsham. As if by touching the Brahman, because we have lost the touch of Brahman because of the waves. Brahma sangsparsha. You just calm down the mind, you touch Brahman. Brahma sangsparsham. Sukhena atyantam sukhamasrute. That sukha you have never ever even realized. It was all momentary happiness. This is the happiness which has no end. It is like taila dharavat, the scripture says. Just like pouring oil from one vessel to other. Because of the viscosity, you'd see there is no discontinuation. It's a constant flow. That's the happiness. Uninterrupted. You can enjoy. That's the scripture is assuring us. So this is the Brahmisthiti which has been spoken of. From the 28th verse, we will again take up in the next class, and we will continue till the 32nd sloka to understand these two aspects that will find manifestation through our life. This Brahmisthiti and the Samadarshana, as has been spoken of in this Bhagavad Gita from the 27th to the 32nd verse of the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So we will again take up those slokas in the next class. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Next Sunday there is a satsang. The Gita class won't be there, but we have a satsang, and you all are invited to join. We have actually sent an email with a link just to get the numbers that how many are attending here. It helps us to arrange for the program. So please register that link. If you don't have the link, please let us know. We will send it to you. And please attend. You're all invited to attend the satsang in the next Sunday. It will be from 10 to 1:30 p.m. There will be 2 sessions followed by some lunch prasadam also. So you're all invited.